Picture this. A young man sits alone in a small government office in Beijing, staring at a phone that won't ring. He had tried everything. He had failed at almost everything. He had been rejected so many times that most people had already given up on him, and honestly, he had started to wonder if they were right. But something inside him kept saying, "Not yet, not yet." This is the story of Jack Ma, a boy from a poor family in China who was rejected by almost everyone, everywhere, his entire life, and then built one of the most valuable companies the world has ever seen. Let's go back to where it started. Hangzhou, China, 1964. Jack Ma is born into a poor family in a city most of the world has never heard of. His parents are traditional musicians, a beautiful life, but not a wealthy one. Growing up, Jack is small and he is not considered academic. In school, he struggles. In exams, he fails. The other children around him seem to find things easier. But there is one thing Jack Ma cannot stop thinking about: English. As a young boy, he makes an unusual decision. Every morning, before school, he gets on his bicycle and rides to the nearest hotel, a place where foreign tourists sometimes stay. He introduces himself to the tourists. He asks if he can practice English with them, for free, just for the chance to learn. He does this every single morning for 9 years. 9 years of riding his bicycle to that hotel before sunrise. 9 years of conversations with strangers who didn't have to talk to him, but did. One Australian tourist, a man named Ken Morley, eventually gives him a nickname that would stick for the rest of his life: Jack, because his Chinese name was too difficult for foreigners to pronounce. Then comes the exam. In China, everything depends on one test, the Gaokao, the National University Entrance Exam. It determines your future, your career, your entire life trajectory. Jack Ma takes it. He fails. He goes away, studies harder, comes back, and fails again. 2 failures on the most important exam of his life. Most people around him have already moved on. Some have gone to university. Some have started working. He is still trying to get through the door that everyone else walked through without looking back. He tries a 3rd time, and this time he gets in, but not to a prestigious university. He gets into the Hangzhou Teachers Institute, a small college that most ambitious students wouldn't choose. Some of the people he grew up with look down on this. He doesn't care. He graduates and becomes an English teacher. His salary? Roughly $12 a month. $12 for a full month of work. But the rejections don't stop with exams. When KFC opens its first restaurant in China, Jack Ma is one of 24 people who apply for a job there. 23 of those people are hired. He is the only one turned away. He applies to be a police officer, rejected. He applies to Harvard Business School, one of the most famous schools in the world. Not once, but 10 times. 10 separate applications. 10 separate rejections. In total, by his own account in public interviews, he is rejected from more than 30 jobs and schools in the span of a few years. Then, in 1995, something changes. Jack Ma is invited to travel to the United States on a business trip, his first time leaving China. He visits Seattle. A friend introduces him to a new technology that almost nobody in China has ever heard of. It is called the Internet. He sits down at a computer. He is nervous. He types a single word into the search bar: beer. Results appear for beer from Germany, beer from America, beer from Japan. He stares at the screen and notices something. There is not a single result from China. He searches again. This time he types China. Almost nothing comes back. In 1995, China, a country of over 1 billion people, barely exists on the internet. Jack Ma looks at that empty search result and sees something nobody else in the room sees. He sees an enormous space, a gap between what is and what could be. He later says in interviews that in that moment he understood something simple. If he could connect Chinese businesses to the world through the internet, everything could change. He returns to China and starts his first internet company, China Pages, the first internet company in China, designed to list Chinese businesses online so the world could find them. He works day and night. He teaches himself enough about websites to build basic pages. He is certain this is the idea that will work. It doesn't. China Pages fails. The government doesn't understand what he is trying to do. The technology is too new. The timing is too early. Once again, Jack Ma is back at the beginning. For a while, he takes a government job in Beijing, helping to build websites for the Ministry of Commerce. It is a stable job, a safe job. But every day he sits in that office, he feels further from where he wants to be. He is not built for a desk inside a government building. He is built to build something of his own. After a year, he makes a decision. He quits. He goes back to Hangzhou, and he starts again. It is 1999. Jack Ma calls 17 friends and colleagues to his small apartment in Hangzhou. He stands in the living room, and for 2 hours he talks. He tells them his idea. He tells them it will be hard. He tells them they might fail. He tells them he cannot promise them anything except that they will work harder than they have ever worked in their lives. All 17 of them say yes. They each contribute their savings, a total of around $60,000, and together, in that small apartment, they found a company. They call it Alibaba. Jack Ma then flies to Silicon Valley, the heart of the technology world, to find investors. He meets with dozens of people. He pitches his idea again and again. He explains what Alibaba is. He explains why China needs it. He explains the opportunity. Nobody invests. The investors are polite. Some are not polite. But the answer is always the same: no. He flies back to China with no money, no investors, and a company that is running out of time. Back in Hangzhou, Alibaba nearly collapses. The dot-com crash of 2000 wipes out thousands of internet companies around the world. Many people who had invested in internet businesses lose everything. Jack Ma watches companies that had more money, more staff, and more experience than Alibaba disappear overnight. He cuts costs. He keeps his team together. He tells them to keep working. He refuses to quit. While the rest of the internet world is falling apart, Alibaba stays alive, barely, but alive. Then, in a single 6-minute meeting, everything shifts. Masayoshi Son, the founder of SoftBank and one of the most respected investors in Asia, meets with Jack Ma. The meeting lasts only 6 minutes. In that time, Son decides to invest $20 million into Alibaba. Not because of spreadsheets or projections, but because, he later says, of the look in Jack Ma's eyes. He could see the spirit of a fighter. $20 million in 6 minutes changes everything. From that moment, Alibaba grows in ways that almost nobody predicted. It becomes the engine of Chinese e-commerce. Millions of small businesses that could never reach customers beyond their own city can now sell to buyers across the country and across the world. In 2014, 15 years after that first meeting in a Hangzhou apartment, Alibaba lists on the New York Stock Exchange. It raises $25 billion in a single day, the largest initial public offering in the history of the stock market at the time. The boy who failed his university entrance exam twice, who was rejected by KFC, who heard no from Harvard 10 times, is now leading one of the most valuable companies ever built. Here is what Jack Ma's story really teaches us, and it is not what most people think. It is not simply that rejection is fine and everything will work out in the end. It is something harder than that. It is that rejection does not define the size of your future. It only tells you about this one door on this one day. Jack Ma was rejected at almost every door he ever knocked on, and yet he kept knocking. Not because he was fearless, but because he believed that somewhere there was a door that would open. What if you stopped measuring your worth by the number of doors that closed and started measuring it by the number of doors you still haven't tried? So the next time someone tells you no, at a job, at school, in your business, in your life, remember the boy from Hangzhou who couldn't even get a job at a fast food restaurant. Remember that he heard no from Harvard 10 times and still became someone Harvard now teaches as a case study. If this story moved you and helped you practice your English listening, hit subscribe. A new true story arrives every week. Next time, we'll follow one of the most beloved storytellers of our time who was rejected 12 times before her words touched the hearts of hundreds of millions of readers around the world. See you in the next one.